Are you still doing things the way Granddad did? And if you are you really doing what Granddad did? Welcome to the Maverick-Minute. And we're going to talk more about what are we doing compared to what Granddad did. We're going to talk about bull development, bull selection, bull strategies on Maverick-Minute today.
Today's student shout out goes out to Michael Blaine. He is at home managing the dairy and also a beef operation that does a lot of rotational grazing, and we're thrilled to see him utilizing his classroom skills and his hands-on skills in a way that helps support the agriculture industry. Great job, Michael. Today we're thrilled to be with our friends at the R.A. Brown Ranch.
Our mission at R.A. Brown Ranch is very simple, and that is that we're continually striving to improve the efficiency of converting God's forage into safe, nutritious, and great tasting beef to better feed His people. That's why our family's in the cattle business and we love what we do. And when I say utilizing and better utilizing God's forage, I'm talking about all that grass and forbs and forages out there that you and I and chickens and hogs cannot utilize. Using the rough terrain that we can't use for crops, that we can't use for fruits and vegetables and human food consumption, but we can do a great job of repurposing and upgrading naturally growing grass and convert it into high quality protein in the form of great tasting beef. What we're looking at here is a 1/4 mile of bulls where we can feed the bulls here a high roughage ration, but they also have an exercise system, because our strategy is to test the bulls for performance and now efficiency while also developing them for longevity. We believe our bulls will get more cows pregnant, produce more calves in their lifetime, and therefore be of more value to our customers. Not only because of the better genetics, but because they can spread that fixed cost of their purchase price out over more calves. And it just makes a lot more sense. So we have a ration that has 0 corn, a really high roughage ration, really high fiber, so that it develops the gut right. So these bulls, when they leave here, they're ready to go digest forage. Whether it's fescue, whether it's really wet grass in Florida, whether it's dry grass in Wyoming or western Kansas, all throughout the United States. We ship them coast to coast and border to border. This is what we call our maintenance ration. It's designed for the bulls to gain about 1/2 pound a day. You can see it doesn't have any corn in it whatsoever. It's really high roughage, so we have a lot of cotton byproduct. That would be the gin trash or cotton burrs. There's no seed there. That's just the burr, the final byproduct of what is left when they take the seed out and most of the lint out. It's not a real pretty feed, but it makes really good nutrition with a lot of fiber, which is beneficial to the ruminant digestive system. You can see there's more of the cotton burrs and even has part of the shell there. Other ingredients that we have, you can see some silage here. So we've got triticale or wheat silage, and it's actually before it makes the head. It makes the head, but before it makes the seed. It's in the dough stage, so we're not getting the high energy from the grain in there. And then we've got some pellets in here that there's so few I can't even find one at the moment, but that helps balance it out. It's got soybean hulls, sunflower seeds, a dry distiller's grain. We're actually in the process of taking the distiller's grain out and moving away from it. But use a lot of byproducts, a lot of co-products, really high fiber, and with that, it really helps digest the forage. or it causes them to develop their gut to digest the forage. So, you know, as we look at developing breeding cattle, the ruminants got 4 compartments in their stomach because to better digest things that you and I and chickens and hogs cannot utilize. And so that first big compartment, the rumen, is near neutral on pH. And the reason it's near neutral is so that it has bacteria and protozoa, microorganisms that help break this down as they chew that up, goes in the rumen, and then they'll bring it back up as a cud, chew it some more for it to go on through the digestive system. So when we develop it this way, it really helps create that right blend of microorganisms and pH in the rumen, so that when they leave here, they're ready to go to grass and digest forage and stay in good condition and never miss a beat. Whereas if we develop these bulls on a high concentrate diet with a lot of corn, the problem is that really reduces the pH in the rumen, makes it more acidic. And guess what that does to the microflora, those microorganisms? That's an environment they cannot live in. So it really kills a lot of that, makes them more like a single stomach pig or a hog or a human with more acidic. And the problem with that is when they leave a high concentrate development system and they go to grass, they don't have all the bugs in their belly to digest forage. That's why you see a lot of bulls melt like butter in the microwave when they're so fat and pretty at a sale, and then they go to grass and they just melt because their gut is not ready to digest forage. So that's why we like the strategy of developing bulls for longevity, and part of that's developing them on a slower, more natural pace, on a more natural diet to what they're going to get the rest of their life out in the breeding pasture. Testing bulls for performance and now efficiency and carcass value while developing them for longevity is one of our key strategies here at R.A. Brown Ranch. These bulls are fed a really high roughage ration, grown at a more natural, slower pace, so we sell them at 18 to 20 months old. A little more age advantage, a little more maturity, so that you're not asking a boy to go out and do a man's job. But with that, we also have an exercise program where these bulls eat here first thing in the morning, and then each one of these pens has a pasture that goes 1/4 to 1/2 mile to the west. They go down through the valley and up the big rocky hill. The only shade is those trees up on the rocky hill. So they'll eat here first thing, they'll head up there, and we'll feed second call after lunch. They'll come back down, eat, get them a drink, and head back up for the latest part of the hot afternoon, or the hottest part of the late afternoon. And so we call it 2-a-days. They tend to make that trip twice a day, but it gets those bulls where their muscles are toned up, their feet are hard, they're used to handling that rough, rocky environment. And our customers that have that environment really tend to appreciate that, so that they're ready to go travel the big country or handle an easier environment. That's one of our strategies here at the ranch. In my lifetime, we've worked with 18 different breeds of cattle here at R.A. Brown Ranch. Today, we focus on 3. We focus on both colors of Angus, red and black, as well as the hybrid combination of Simmental and Angus, both colors, in the Sim Angus population. Those are the primary breeds that we work with today. There's a couple more that we're working with in sampling, because we're always in research mode here, trying to figure out what's best for our customers. We found it's a whole lot easier to sell what the customer wants to buy than it is for us to simply try to sell what we want to raise. So with that, as you look down this row of bulls here, you're seeing all 3 of our breeds, Red Angus, Black Angus, Sim Angus, and then we're also blending Red and Black Angus together. And our hope is that both of these breeds, in fact, the American Angus Association is the only Angus registry in the world that doesn't register both colors of Angus. And so our hope is that all these breeds, that Red and Black Angus can work together more in genetic prediction and marketing superior Angus beef, those kind of things. And that's my hope as we move forward in working with both colors of Angus. As I mentioned in our mission statement, efficiency has been a part of our mission for decades. In 2016, we put in our GrowSafe system to individually measure feed intake in all the cattle, all of our replacement heifers, and nearly all of our bulls. And what that does is this system, built by GrowSafe, measures the individual feed intake of every animal. As you look at the animal's ear, in its right ear on your left, there's a little button tag on top of the ear. That little button tag has an RFID, and that electronic ID, radio frequency identification, it is picked up by the antenna that's molded in the outside of that bump. So when an animal sticks its head in, say for example G587, when she sticks her head in, it measures that she's eating. Let's move a little bit closer if we can. I guess I can. So I'll show you this. So each one of these bunks, the antenna is molded in the outside of the feed bunk so that when the animal sticks its head in, it reads its electronic ID. Each one of these bunks sits on a scale. And that scale, there's a scale on each side, and that scale will then weigh, and it actually takes a weight of the feed bunk every second. And with that, it measures the disappearance of feed as each animal comes in, and it can eat at any bunk it wants to because it automatically reads its ID so that it tracks and traces that animal's identification number with how much feed disappears. That then runs through the cords up to this antenna. That antenna goes half a mile wirelessly to our office where it's all stored on our computer, which is monitored 24 hours a day by the parent company GrowSafe in Canada. And we download it out here in rural West Texas. We don't have a great internet service, and so we download it late at night because it's lots of information. We download that 2 o'clock every morning, and they can monitor and we can track and see how much animals eating every day. The neat part is you can look and see if animals aren't feeling well. Because you think about it, when you're not feeling well, what's one of the first things that goes? It's your appetite. And so when we find animals that are going off feed, in fact, GrowSafe will actually send us a text message and say, hey, you may want to check animal G590 because she's not eating regularly in the last 24 hours. A lot of times we'll take those animals, put them in the squeeze chute, check their temp, and they'll be running a low-grade fever. We can treat them quickly, easily, and boy, the next day they're right back on feed most of the time before we would ever see symptoms in the pen. So it's a pretty handy management tool as well. But with this, we're seeing amazing differences where we all want high-performing cattle, cattle that gain fast, but also efficiently. So when we take the top 20% for high gain, in every test, we test 128 head of cattle at a time. Right now, I've got 64 heifers. The next pen, I've got 64 bulls. And what we do is, as we test these, we take every group, the top 20% for growth. The best one will eat half as much as the worst one. Test after test after test. We're now almost through our 4th year of feed efficiency testing, and the trait has excellent heritability. Similar, actually better than weaning weight. We know we can make great advantages in weaning weight through genetic selection, and now as we measure this trait, we're really excited not only about how well these cattle will convert in the feed yard, but also we take these sisters, because we test every replacement heifer, because I want cows that I can run more cows on fewer acres, eating less hay, less grass, less supplement to produce more pounds of beef. That to us is where the next great frontier is in beef cattle production. So you can see by this big rocky hill behind me, it's a way to make tough bulls, where their feet are hard, their muscles are toned up as they make this trek up and down this hill a couple of times a day. We believe in developing bulls for longevity, and this is an important part of it. By having bulls that are coming 2 years old with more maturity and then developed for longevity, handling this big old rough rocky hill. Each one of these pens has a pasture that goes up this old rocky hill so that the bulls are ready to go, and they can adapt to about any environment. We ship them coast to coast and border to border and even across the border from time to time. And our hope is that these bulls last a long time. I've had guys call me and say, you know, I need to replace that bull. I bought him 10 years ago. You know, he's 12 years old now and, you know, has produced hundreds of calves. But when they can take that purchase price and spread it out over more calves, that makes it a better investment, a more wise investment. You know, and if we think about, am I doing things the way Granddad did? I want to talk about that strategy, because as we look at what our granddads did, they did the best with what we had. And if we're just doing what they're doing because that's the way they did it, then we should probably reanalyze our thinking. But if we look at it from their boots, from their perspective, and you know, they were using the tools they had at the time to do the best they had with what they were, where they were and the tools they had. So what tools can we use today to better provide food to feed a growing global population? That's why we're implementing as much technology and strategy as we can here to improve the efficiency of converting God's forage into safe, nutritious, and great tasting beef. Our number one goal is to improve the profitability and the sustainability of our customers. And we believe if we can do that, they'll keep coming back here to buy bulls. One of the unique things about this part of the country is we have no fresh underground water. We're totally dependent on runoff. So as we look at this pivot, this is the only pivot in 900 square miles, the only pivot in Throckmorton County, Texas. And what we do to help fertilize this field and to water this field is we catch all the water from where our bulls are being developed that you've seen already. We catch all that water in a lagoon, and then we pump it out through this irrigation system so that it not only waters the grass, but it also better recycles and utilizes some of those naturally occurring nutrients that we get in that runoff water. So it's a great way. You know, we're big believers in upcycling, regenerative agriculture, where we're regenerating things and continually making the life cycle of plants and animals to be the best stewards of God's creation. You know, we believe He put us here to better take care of the animals and the land and the water and the air. That's a responsibility that we have and that we should take very seriously as we move forward in the food production system of agriculture. We believe there's 3 basic rules of beef cattle production that apply no matter where you live or what your environment is. And that's rule number 1 is this bull's echoing in my background here. Rule number 1, select the cow that best fits your environment. And as we pan across the environment here, you can see the rough rolling plains of north central Texas. And we average 25 inches of rain here a year. Our wettest months are April, May, June, and September. We do have a lot of heat, a higher temperature, but not as much humidity. But with that, our grazing, we grow a lot less grass with less rainfall, so we average a cow to 20 acres here. That's year-round. We don't feed any hay, but we do supplement with protein. So as you look at whatever your environment is, if you're in fescue, if you're in deep South Florida with even more rainfall, or if you're in Arizona where it takes over 100 acres to run a cow, rule number 1 is select the cow that best fits your environment. She's the factory, and if the factory's not running at peak efficiency, then she's probably costing too much money. Rule number 2, select the bull that best complements the cow to produce the calf that fits your market. So with that, we've got to do a little deeper thinking on rule number 2. Let's begin with the end in mind. What is our market? Are we going to sell calves at weaning time? Are we going to precondition and keep those calves and sell them as yearlings? Are we going to take them on through the feed yard? Are we keeping replacements or selling replacements? That's another part of our market that we have to decide as we look at selecting the bull that complements the cow to produce the calf that fits our market. And that replacement heifer you keep is part of your market because she's going from your calf crop into your cow herd if you look at it from an enterprise counting standpoint. That's rule number 2. And as we look at that, you know, we've got to get cows that fit the environment. I remember when I was little, we had an old station wagon. And it was the only thing, I'm the youngest of 4 kids, and it was the only thing big enough to haul all 4 of us kids around. But it was the vehicle we had, and so Dad would throw cubes in the hatchback and we'd go feed cows. And I remember we took a trip one time and we went and we went down an old road. It had a pretty big rain a week earlier, and it had dried in some big ruts, and somebody went down through there with when it was really muddy. Well, we were looking for that set of cows, and Dad drove off in those ruts, and we high centered. We unloaded all that feed, hoping it would raise it up enough where we still couldn't get out. We had to walk several miles back to the house. I was about 5 years old. I'll never forget it. You know, and as we look at it today, they changed that vehicle, and what they did is they took that station wagon body and put it on a pickup frame and call it a sport utility vehicle. The best-selling vehicles in the United States today. And so that's what we talk about, complementarity. They took the roominess of that old station wagon, picked it up and gave it the clearance of a pickup, and call it a sport utility vehicle. So when we talk about rule number 2, select the bull that best complements the cow to produce the offspring, the calf that best fits your market. That's rule number 2. Rule number 3 talks about management. We all have different capabilities for management. So as we look at management, I think it's important to select the breeding system that best fits your management. You can look at a lot of different crossbreeding programs and get very intense in high management. You can get into some really intensive rotational grazing system, produce more pounds per acre. But if you don't have time to put that much labor into it, then you need to look at a management strategy and a breeding system that requires a little less time and labor. But I think it's real important for you to fit your breeding system to fit your management and time capabilities and facilities for what you have. Those are the 3 basic rules, regardless of where you live, regardless of the size of your ranch, that will help you be more profitable in the cattle business moving forward. One of the things that we have with selling 800 bulls a year is we have economies of scale, where we can mix our own rations, we can buy commodities by the truckload, we harvest our own forages here in wheat and triticale, a wheat-rye hybrid that we cut into silage. So as you're looking at our wheel loader loading the feed truck right now, he has scales on the feed truck so he knows exactly how much to put in. It's got mixer wheels inside that truck that's blending that ration so that it's all balanced and mixed just right with the right amount of ingredients of each ingredient. We like to feed a lot of silage because the moisture really helps cut the dust and condition the feed to make it more palatable. We like feeding forage because that's what these cattle are going to go eat the rest of their life. So we blend that a lot with cotton burrs as well, and then a pellet that we get shipped in here that's designed specifically for our 2 different rations so that it's balanced with the right micro and macronutrients. We have different inclusion rates depending on whether we're using our grower ration or our maintenance ration. And so it works really well as we use a lot of byproducts, co-product, things that like the cotton burrs that used to be just thrown away or used for organic matter to spread back over the field, but now we can use it on cattle. With the silage, it makes a great feed. It's high moisture, it's good protein, and so we have to pack that as it's cut. We cut it when it's green, and it's like salad in a bag. Because what we do is we'll put an inoculant with it, a preservative with it as we harvest it and chop it, and then we'll put it into these pits and pack it with a really heavy tractor with water inside the wheels to get it packed as heavy as we can to get as much oxygen out of it, kind of like canning food. We want to get as much oxygen out of it as we can, and then it will create a seal where that silage will last over a year, sometimes 2 or 3, depending on how well we got it inoculated. Now, what's exposed to oxygen on the top we'll have about a 6-inch layer there that will decompose, but it'll create a seal. And then the face, as we feed off of it every day, it will, slowly start to decompose, kind of like vegetables would left out on the counter for, it takes a while, but if you leave them out there long enough, you're going to get some decomposition. But we're feeding it regularly enough where the feed stays fresh. The cattle are fed twice a day. We feed first thing in the morning, come back and feed second call in the afternoon. We talked about selecting the cow to fit the environment. The rolling plains of West Texas with 20 acres to 1 cow is a unique environment. But the neat part about it is we don't have to feed any hay because we have cool season grasses and warm season grasses But during the winter months, December, January, and February, we do have to supplement with protein with standing forage. So we don't have to cut the hay. It's got decent enough quality and value to feed through the winter as long as we supplement with protein and a quality enhanced mineral program to feed the bugs in their belly to best digest that old dormant forage that we still have standing. As we look at cows, breeding strategy is real important. I talked about fitting cow to the environment. That also goes for the breeding season. What time of year? You know, as we look at Mother Nature, I really like to look at wildlife and how our Creator developed times and seasons of the year, and how the time when breeding season occurs and offspring are born tends to fit that environment. You know, we look at it with cattle. If cattle in this environment tend to either be born in the fall when we get September rains and fresh green up, or spring rains, March, April, May, June, and have that breeding season to fit that schedule as well. If you look at it naturally, that's when it typically naturally occurs. So as we look at it, the season of the year when the cows have their highest nutrient requirements is that first 90 days after they calve, when they're nursing that calf, and they're also trying to get their body back in shape to get rebred in that same 90-day window. So with that, as we look at this set of calves, we've got a set of mainly 2, 3, and 4-year-old cows here in this pasture. The calves are tagged with their mother's number. So as long as they are a calf, E1584. So as we look, the calf has got the same ID number as its mother, because until they're weaned, they're a pair, they're a unit. So they're tagged there. The sire is on top of the tag. M is for Merlin. An AI sire that we're using heavily. The birth date, I believe, looks like January 16th is the date that calf was born. And that January, February, March calving fits us well here, so that we're breeding March, April, and May when that nutrition is really optimal. On the tags of the cows, you know, being registered cows, we do have a lot of information on those tags. That would include the sire, the dam, the maternal grandsire, all on that tag. In this age group, we also have some bred heifers in here, G1709, G545, G529. All of these are young yearling heifers at their first breeding season. Now, we started artificially inseminating here in 1969, the year I was born, 51 years ago. And we've AI'd every cow on this ranch ever since then. We breed our heifers 3 heat cycles and then turn them out with a follow-up bull. We don't use cleanup bulls, because cleanup's what you do after you have a mess. So we use a follow-up bull, a follow-up after our AI season. And so we get as many of them pregnant artificially, using the best bulls, using frozen semen from the very best bulls in the business, and then the ones that we can't get pregnant at AI in 42 days. And I say 42 because we synchronize, and then we have 21 days later a second heat, and another 21 days the third heat. So 42 days, we should get about 85% of them pregnant through artificial insemination. Then we'll turn the bulls out and let them tend to the rest. The cows, depending on our labor situation and depending on our forage, we'll either breed just 1 synchronized heat. Sometimes we'll breed 2 or even 3 heat cycles, depending on the conditions and our labor. What we have found in our seed stock business here is that our artificially inseminated calves by the very best bulls in the business tend to sell for an average of $1,000 to $1,500 higher than those by a pasture bull that doesn't have quite as good a genetics. You know, quality pays. And so many people look at a bull as a cost. But I'm going to challenge everybody to rethink that, because a bull is really an investment. And we get what we pay for. So are you getting a bull that's making you money because he's producing more calves and producing better calves that make you more money? Or are you just getting a cow freshener that gets them pregnant every year? You know, I like to look at it, I want to select a bull like I work to select my spouse. You know, I take it pretty serious, because I want it the very best that I can get. And with my wife, Kelly, we're thankful that we were able to be here on this ranch, enjoyed working in and with God's creation and with our 2 children, now both of them back at the ranch with us as the 6th and soon to be 7th generation here at R.A. Brown Ranch. Genetically, we work hard to have the best genetics that we can. As I mentioned, our #1 goal is to improve the profitability and the sustainability of our customers through better genetics and service. And when I say service, I'm talking about service after the sale, where we help our customers market their calves for top dollar. As we look at the cow herd, one of the things we've tried to do to enhance the genetic merit of our cattle is, as you look at these cows that have a yellow tag, those are registered cows that genetically, we're past them, okay? We've surpassed them with younger generation. And they weren't as good as we really wanted them to be. So we made those into recipient cows where they're gonna be raising some of the very best calves we have, because we're taking our best cows, doing embryo transfer, and putting their eggs into these cows that we're gonna call generic cows. In 2001, we started selling every 3-year-old cow on the ranch every year, after they had weaned their second calf and were bred back with their third. In 2013, my parents decided to divide up the ranch between the 4 of us kids and do an estate planning strategy that helped keep the ranch in the family and the family in the ranch. And it worked wonderfully. We divided the ranch 4 ways. It worked extremely well, but we were struggling with what to do with the cows because we were in our 3rd year of drought. We'd sold most of our commercial cows, and my siblings were more interested in raising commercial cattle than they were seed stock cattle. So what we did is we decided to have a complete and total dispersal. And we sold every cow on the ranch. Every heifer calf, every cow. And with that, my siblings allowed me to get embryos from the very best cows if Kelly and I would manage the sale and take care of all of it. And that way we could keep the genetics that our family had put together for generations and keep the pipeline full to keep having our bull sale every year. So we bought commercial cows, we captured embryos from our very best cows, put those in, and then sold every cow on the ranch. Now, we also made it clear that we might buy cows in the sale also, and each one of us as siblings bought a few cows in the sale. And in 2013, my wife and I had 20 cows to our name that we bought in our dispersal. And it's from those 20 cows, we've now regrown to about 350 cows that we raise and sell. And with our cooperator team, a group of seed stock producers that share our same goals, values, and perspective, we're selling 800 bulls annually and about 800 commercial heifers from our commercial customers that are bred heifers. And then we'll sell every 4-year-old cow now every year. And we do that so that we can continue to improve the genetic merit of our cows. From 01 to 13, we sold every 3-year-old after they'd weaned that second calf. Now we decided to keep them 1 more year and sell them as 4-year-olds. It works extremely well. And as a result, we're keeping a lot of young heifers every year and calving a lot of heifers. So as we look at the genetics we're trying to produce, we're trying to get cattle that do a handful of things well. To me, we can take most of the traits of beef cattle production and summarize them into 5 categories. Number 1 is calving ease. If a calf's not born alive, healthy, and ready to get up and nurse, it doesn't matter what other traits it provides, it's not worth near as much. Number 2 is growth. We want cattle that perform well, grow fast, press hard on the scales when it comes time to sell them, because we still sell them by the pound. Number 3 is maternal traits, what I call cow herd traits. Cows that are fertile, cows that breed easy. We like to keep our heifers that breed in the first 2 heat cycles. That gives them more time to get rebred, and we're selecting for cattle that are more fertile over the long haul. So fertility, longevity, those cow herd traits are really important. Maternal, calving ease, and so on. Number 4, carcass traits. I love a tender, flavorful, juicy steak. And as we have worked over the last 14 years of gathering actual carcass data with a carcass test herd where we AI their cows and harvest those calves compared to the very best bulls in the breed, we are now up to 55% prime carcasses. And those calves are earning an average of $400 per head in premiums because of that added flavor, quality, and product. The number 5, and that's efficiency. How efficient are they converting God's forage into safe, nutritious, and great tasting beef to better feed his people. Those are the 5 traits that we can summarize them down to. And then you've got convenience traits like, are they naturally polled? Do they have the docility that we want? All of those traits, you know, and the thing is, I've never had a customer ask for an ugly one. So we want them to look the part as well. All things considered, we want cattle that do all things well. Where we're selling the more mature 18 to 20-month-old bull, our fall-born bulls are sold in March. Our winter and spring-born bulls are sold in October, twice a year. And with that, we have free delivery throughout the lower 48 states with a minimum purchase price, but we'll arrange delivery anywhere in the lower 48 states for regardless of how many you buy. Well, a visit to Texas today wouldn't be complete without seeing a Texas Longhorn. Freckles is a 5-year-old steer with quite a span. One of the unique things about the Texas Longhorn is they're tough critters. You know, they can survive on not much more than scenery. They're not as productive, they don't grow as fast as, you know, say the bulls across the pond there that have a lot better quality beef. But, you know, there's a piece of our history that I think is important, that we reflect back on history, that we know our roots, the challenges that our ancestors went through to settle this country, to have food to put on the table, that were survivors. Today in agriculture, we've been able to adjust our resources to produce cattle more efficiently that produce a better product. And I think we're going to continue to have to do that, using technology, using gene editing, using reproductive strategies, and selecting better cattle through EPDs and DNA selection so that we can make better product that will more efficiently utilize the natural resources that we have. And as we increase global population, people are going to take more land. And the world's not getting larger, so that means we've got to be more efficient on the land we have available to produce our food. I hope you'll help me, help our family, help our industry in doing the best we can. We're thankful for the opportunity to work in the agricultural industry. We're thankful for being able to raise our family out here. My wife and I could have done a lot of things that would have made a lot more money, but we chose this lifestyle because we love being able to work out in God's creation with regenerative, renewable resources and helping feed the world. When I was about 20 years old, I was challenged to set some goals for my lifetime. And those goals were very important to me, and those are the same 4 goals that I have today. The 4th most important goal I had 30 years ago, and still today, was to produce the most efficient beef cattle in the entire world that have superior flavor. That to me is my life passion and my career. 3rd most important thing is I wanted to be healthy and I wanted to have joy in life. Number 2 is I want to be the best husband and the best father that I can be. But more important than anything else is that I want to go to heaven when I die and help as many other people know the way, the truth, and the life. And to me, there's nothing more important than that. Thank you for joining us today on the R.A. Brown Ranch in Throckmorton, Texas. This has been another Maverick Minute.